going to take the victory, 128 laps without a pit stop.
Donnie Kite's going to get through it all and score his first career win. Saturday Night Racing League throwback at Charlotte goes to Josh Adams.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of the Super Formula 23B Open Series, right here live on VSPEED. It's week 4, and it's brought to you in part by Graham Crackers Racing. No matter if you're searching for speed or a place to race, you found it. Stop by Graham Crackers Racing Discord server where everybody's welcome. Looking for a team? You're in luck. We are actively recruiting for both of our Super Formula 23 and NASCAR teams. You can join them by using the link down in the video description. And while you're there, don't forget to check out Race Ready 3D's link in the video description below. Remember, all thanks to the partnership with SimRacingNation.com for making this possible for us here on VSPEED. I'm your host, Logan Threlkeld, and stepping in this afternoon, taking the controls in the production truck, we have Kyle Bassett, a.k.a. King Big Dip, with the cameras provided by Dougie Beard, as always. And we are in such a phenomenal part of the world here for these Super Formula cars. It is the Fuji Speedway, located in Oyama, Japan. This 2.83 mile circuit, 16 corners here this afternoon, will actually just be just 14 corners here. That Dunlop corner turned 10, 11, and 12. That chicane is not a part of this one. I apologize for the discrepancy on the track map there. But we've got about 580 meters of elevation change here. 14 corners. It is a long track at that 2.83 mile length. It's going to be fast, however. A lot of lap times in the sub 1 minute and 20 second bracket by quite a large margin. Our qualifying effort has already completed, but we do have some broadcasted points to go over here, as it's up on your screen now. JT Smeaton leading the way with Jansu Foster, Timothy Fries Larson, Rohan Sanir, and Marcos Alerson making up your top 5. Dan Yang, Gabriel Hope, Ludwig Ranson, Gonzalo Pio Perez, and Rosenborough will make up your top 10 here early. as that is just for the first 3 weeks of this season. We've got a lot of racing left to go, but our drivers are ready to grid. And on the front row, 2 names we have come to know very, very well, and I've already seen a comment in the chat. This one is going to be heated up right from the start. Timothy Freeze-Larsen takes the number 1 spot with a 1:16.392. Jan-Sue Foster in P2 with a 1:16.420. Row number 2 will belong to Corey Elaine in the 14 machine next to the 3 of Dennis Branch. Row number 3 right behind will be Nicholas Sergestrel next to Simon Scholes in the 8. In P7, Ludwig Ranson next to Aaron Full in the 11. Rounding out our top 10, Dan Yang next to the 9 of Miguel Fachado. Very short field here on the night, only 15 cars. In 11th, Benjamin David next to the 13 of Stefan Barr. In P13 to start this one out, Dennis Cornu will be next to the 6 of Javier Fernandez. And last but not least, with no qualifying time on the afternoon, the 10 of Artur Kazimierski. We have just a few seconds here as all of our drivers have gridded up. Let's get right to the action. As the green flag drops, we are away for our first lap here at Fuji Speedway. And it is a hair scramble down into turn 1, side by side for Larson and Jan-Sue Foster into turn 1. Larson comes out just ahead, but it's 3 wide, a little bit further back in that P6, P7 area. Oh, a little bit of action off track even. Here we go with Larson already getting out ahead by over a quarter of a second over Jan-Sue Foster. This is a very technical section of the track. It is the most technical section of the track. We have a very long straightaway down into turn 1. And here's where a lot of these drivers will be able to focus on making these corner exits and entries as optimal as possible, trying to gain up any little bit of time that they can. We have single filed out all the way through our top 10. We've got action at the back of the pack, however. Stefan Barr in the 13 goes around. Dennis Cornu wrapped up in it as well. Benjamin David in the 15 already back to the pits under meatball flag conditions. That is one wrecked race car. Lap 1 in the books, under control by Timothy Freeze-Larsen. Jan-Sue Foster not far behind at all. A little bit of a gap back there to Dennis Branch in P3, and still under fire from that 14 of Corey Elaine. These corners through this middle section of the track, you can carry quite a bit of speed, anywhere from 4th to 5th gear for some of these drivers. Once these tires come up to temperature, and a quick left-hander, kind of downhill as well, can pose issues on the braking capabilities. Very easy to lock up those rear tires as we are now on board with Kevin Jan-Sue Foster in that P2 position, trying to chase down Timothy Freeze-Larsen. This is a battle that's been brewing all season long. Jan-Sue Foster, Timothy Freeze-Larsen, they always put on quite the show. They're going to make their way down into turn 14, back to the front stretch here. It is nearly a 1 second gap between first and second place. You can see Larson up ahead of Foster right now, swerving back and forth, trying to break the draft. You can see on the steering wheel there, Foster using that push to pass that is available. 200 seconds of it, as always, closes up the gap down into turn 1. But will it be enough? Both drivers have used that OTS button for about 10 seconds already. Larson now has the ability to reactivate. Jan-Sue Foster not in the spot to do so yet. On board with Simon Scholes running in P5, trying to catch up to that battle between Dennis Branch and Corey Lane. It's close back here with the back half of the top 5. Ludwig Ranson in P6 currently with Miguel Fachado hot on his trail. Dan Yang not far behind. Then we have some separation back to Javier Fernandez in 9th. Archer Kazimirski has moved up from that 15th starting position up to 10th, avoiding all the carnage that happened ahead of him. That's a good way to go about it. Just be calm, cool, and collected, as the drivers around you might make mistakes early, as we've already seen. Aaron Full already out of the race. Benjamin David still down in pit road. Stefan Barr looking to get some of that damage repaired. Don't know if we'll see that 13 back out on the track. Dennis Cornu in the 7 has made his way back out on the track. 1 lap down in P12. Back up towards the front, however, Dennis Branch, Corey Lane, Simon Scholes still all trying to sort out who wants to have control of P3, as Jansu Foster, Timothy Fries-Larson have walked away over a 2-second gap from 2nd to 3rd place. Ludwig Ranson kind of on an island by himself at the moment there in P6. Miguel Fachado not far behind. Simon Scholes not too far ahead, but currently in a spot where he doesn't have to worry too much about being under threat or having to apply pressure to the driver in front. 27 laps on the night here. 1 minute and 16-second lap times will certainly make that go by very, very quickly. If we do see these drivers come down pit road, they will be limited to just 37 miles per hour. So that will very much extend the length of that front stretch back down into turn 1. Keep an eye on these drivers as they make their way through here to the front stretch again to start lap number 5. Timothy Fries-Larson coming across the stripe right now, 0.8 of a second ahead of Jansu Foster. Got a good look here at that 5 of Ludwig Ranson, currently in the P6 position. Diving down into turn 1, a heavy braking zone there. Well, these drivers will try to push the limits into turn 1, braking at that 100 feet marker or shorter. Trying to make that sweeping right-hander here. It will lead us into our technical portion of the track. You can find a lot of momentum just being able to keep the cars up in the higher RPMs, trying to maintain that grip. On board with the 14 of Elaine now, still in P4, hunting that Dennis Branch number 3 just ahead. 0.5 of a second separate 3rd and 4th place at the moment. Ludwig Ranson, he's catching up to Simon Scholes behind, however. Just 0.3 of a second between Scholes and Ranson for P5. You can see Miguel Fachado, Dan Yang right in the picture as well. A lot of these drivers will be able to maximize their ability depending on how they've got these setups going. The short run speed or the long run speed. It will show. Fries-Larson, Jansu Foster, 2 masters of the game when it comes to that long run speed. Oh, nearly contact down into turn 1. Very close, all over the back bumper. I believe that was Dan Yang trying to make something work with Miguel Fachado just ahead. These battles in the back half of the top 10, they always provide maximum entertainment here on these Saturday broadcasts for the Super Formula 23 B Open Series. And it is proving its worth tonight as well. Hard dive down into the corner there for Fachado, trying to get away from Yang. Has to slow it up just a touch before hitting those rumble strips on the left-hand side on corner exit. Completely unsettle the suspension of these cars. That will send you spinning into the wall much quicker than you could ever think to try to gather it back up. The exit of turn 14 is where you let it fly. Turn on that OTS and try to get around. Use the draft in front. Right now we're seeing Dan Yang falling in line with 2 drivers ahead, Fachado and Ranson. Yang takes a look to the inside. Fachado defends. Hung out to dry on the outside, but not going away. It's wheel to wheel down into turn 1. Maybe even contact between the 2. Still going to battle it out here down into turn number 3. And finally, Yang makes it around. Fachado back to P8. All of our drivers on the field, aside from Ludwig Ranson, do have their OTS available. Now it's just a matter of when they are going to use it. Larson now out ahead of Jansu Foster by 1 full second here. Just about the entire field separated by a second at this point in the race, only 7 laps into it. The OTS and drafting ability of these cars will certainly be the biggest factor here. Take a look at just how long this straightaway is at Fuji Speedway. You can see Foster trying to find where that draft might be off the back of Larson. But being so far behind right now, these cars, it may or may not work out. I believe it's about 6 to 7 tenths of a second is where that draft bubble starts to end on those long straightaways. Coming out of turn 14, Jansu Foster was 9 tenths of a second back, so I think just outside of that draft bubble. The dive into turn 3 takes it a little bit wide on exit over the rumble strips, but holds it down. Keeping the speed here through turns 3, 4, and 5 will be key tonight. See Foster electing to drop it down into third gear, as well as Ranson. Still making up ground here on Simon Scholes, within a half second now for Ranson and Scholes. Relaying a new name to this weekend. The 14 shows up and shows out. Running P4 currently. And the 14th ranked driver of the session. Our strength of field tonight in the 4,600 I rating area. So it's a very high talented field. To show up and take P4 so early in the race, is to qualify P3 even, is just something to say about the ability of these drivers. On board now with Yang coming down the front stretch at Fuji. Looking back off of the rear wing of Ranson. Back at Dan Yang. We saw near contact a few laps ago. Not nearly that close that time. Some more battles here through the field. This one between Ranson, Scholes, and Yang being the closest one we have at the moment. Ranson stuck in the middle of 2 competitive drivers here week after week. And Yang will be looking to work his way up to the top 5 by the time we get to that lap 27 mark. Will Scholes be able to fend it off? Still has quite a bit in the tank for the push to pass. Nearly 20 seconds of advantage for Scholes over Ranson. Right now, the driver with the most in the tank is still that 10 of Arthur Kazimierski. Has not used a single second of the push to pass just yet. The 10 currently running in 10th place. About a second and a half behind Javier Fernandez in P9. And it's nearly a 5-second gap up to Miguel Fachado for P8. Our top 8 separated by now 10 seconds. We're on board with Kazimierski at the moment. Still not using any of that push to pass just yet. Would be ideal to start hitting that button and closing that gap even more to Javier Fernandez. Could make that pass go a whole lot easier. Back up in P7 on board with Yang, looking at the battle between Scholes and Ranson for P5. Yang just waiting for one of these drivers to make a mistake and either collect 1 or 2 positions if possible. Miguel Fachado looking to close the door as well and insert his name into the hat for this P5 battle. This middle section of the track can be very tricky as we see multiple drivers taking it a little bit wide there in the short chute. Can get some debris on the tires. A quick slow up for the left-hander down into turn 15. Back up to turn 16 for the full track. Turn 14 for our event here today. This could be a good moment for Dan Yang. All the drivers in front have gotten off of the push-to-pass button or currently using it. Dan Yang has about 10 seconds now before he can utilize that extra power that is available. A big dive behind Scholes. Ranson trying to make up ground into turn 1, trying to get away from Dan Yang and Miguel Fachado. It's not working. These drivers, you could throw a blanket over all 4 of them. And soon enough, you could call it 5. So here, starting to catch up to Corey Lane just up ahead. Simon Scholes looking to get into the top 4. Very quick pace right now. Fastest lap on the track belongs to Jansu Foster with a 1:16.980. Timothy Freeze Larson only 7 1,000ths off of that pace. So our top 2, the only drivers into the 1:16s for now. 168 seconds remain for Larson on the push to pass, 172 for Foster. I would have to say that battle will certainly heat up once we get to the last 5 laps. It could be the one that the fans have been waiting for between these 2. Larson, Foster, always battling it out. Sometimes it ends well, sometimes it ends with one in the pits. We'll see what they can do today. But for now, this battle between our top 10 from 5th back to 8th. Ranson took a look to the inside down into turn 1. Scholes closed the door. Not enough momentum, not too late on the brakes for Ranson. He knows he's got the pace to get there. Wide on corner exit of turn 2. Sets up well on the inside here through the tight right-hand carousel. Nearly contact with Ranson and Scholes. Ranson does give up the position to Dan Yang. Took advantage of it using that inside line. Got by scot-free. Dan Yang now up to P6. We'll see if he can attack that number 8 of Scholes. And wide once again for Ranson. Ranson having issues in the middle portion of this race. Will give up the spot to Miguel Fachado to P7. And Yang trying to get around here. Takes a look to the inside. I believe we got some lap traffic here at play. No, that is Simon Scholes. Simon Scholes having issues here coming out of turn 14. Takes it down to nearly pit road entrance. It looks like Scholes is going to take it to pit road. Unsure if that's going to be for damage, what the case might be. I don't believe there's any contact between Ranson. Ranson picks up a black flag, however, also taking it behind the pit wall down to the stall. But the battle between Yang and Fachado does not go away. Dan Yang gets the advantage for now. With Fachado putting up one heck of a fight here through the middle section of the track. Staying right all over that rear wing. Trying to keep it off of Yang. P5, P6, battling it out, the closest one on the track right now. Ranson currently serving his penalty in the pit stall. Simon Scholes making way back out onto the track, but will certainly be met with these faster drivers up front. Timothy Freeze Larson, Jansu Foster exiting turn 14 just as Scholes makes his way down into turn 1. Scholes will have to pick up the pace a little bit unless he wants to get passed here by our race leaders. Larson Foster have run away from the rest of the field. Dennis Branch back 5.5 seconds behind Foster in P3. On board with Dennis Branch as he makes his way out of turn 1 up to the top of 5th gear before we dive into turn 2. Hitting those rumble strips on the inside. You can pick up a lot of speed there by cutting that corner ever so slightly. Staying off of the brakes. Battle back here between Archer Kazimirski has settled out with Nicholas Sigerstrail. Kazimirski now up to P7. Up 8 positions from starting 15th. The only driver to match that just ahead, Javier Fernandez, up to 6th from P14. So 2 of our drivers from the back rows of the starting grid already up into the top 10 of our 15-car field. Segerstrail doing a great job as well. Another driver at the back half of the strength of field here today, ranked as the number 12 driver. Started in 14th, up to 8th, having a great afternoon here at Fuji Speedway. couple new names in the mix. Always like to see the attendance here. Never know who you're going to have on these Saturday afternoons. Super Formula B Open Series provides some of the best racing here for our road course circuits covered by VSPEED. It is showing no differently today. Segerstrail still trying to chase down Kazimierski for that P7 spot, only 0.4 of a second away. Kazimierski still has not used that push-to-pass button. Segerstrail does know where it's at, however, 126 seconds remaining. Only one driver lower than that. That is Corey Lane up in the P4 spot. Only 90 seconds remain on the push-to-pass for the 14 machine. We'll have to be using that very sparingly here. However, does have a buffer back to Dan Yang by 3.5 seconds, but 1.6 seconds separate P3 and P4. So choices will be made here for our top 5 drivers on when to use that. When is the most optimal time to try to get that extra power down on the track? As we've got to look to the inside for Segerstrail. Makes it stick. Down into turn 1. Gets around Archer Kazimierski for P7. What a perfectly executed maneuver into turn 1. Trying to keep that momentum swinging in the right direction. That 12 has separated now by nearly 0.4 of a second. And it's only 0.7 of a second up to P6. Javier Fernandez will certainly have to battle to hold on to this spot. Segerstrail really showing some speed here in the mid portion of the race. Do have about a 70-second discrepancy between the two drivers on the push-to-pass in favor of Fernandez. So that could come into a major factor of who comes away with that P6 finishing position. It is 7.7 seconds up the road from Fernandez to the top 5 of Dan Yang and Corey Lane. Still the closest battle on the field back here between these three. Fernandez, Segerstrail, Kazimierski in P6, 7th, and 8th. Jansu Foster, 0.8 of a second behind Timothy Freeze Larson. Let's go take a look at how that battle is forming up. Jansu Foster trying to keep the momentum through the middle section of the track. Just looks like Larson has a slightly better setup here for these tight corners. But the speed falls in favor of Jansu Foster. Down the front stretch was where Foster will shine. But the back half of this track here, the last, I would have to say, 40% of Fuji Speedway, very tight cornering. You have to focus on the momentum. A lot of elevation change in these corners as well. While we've got a short break, we're going to take it back to the very start of this race, see what happened to a couple of our drivers. We've got heavy contact at the back of the field. This is between Aaron Full, Stefan Barr, Benjamin David right off the get-go. That eliminated Aaron Full, Stefan Barr, and Benjamin David nearly immediately as this race started. Just the contact a little bit late on the brakes completely knocks off the nose cone, the rear wing of both cars. Not what you want to see so early on in the start. But it has sorted itself out since then. We've been pretty well single-filed out ever since about lap 2. Larson Foster have a great buffer back to P3. Dennis Branch having a great showing on the afternoon, holding down that third-place spot. Corey Lane not far behind, however. Segerstrail is slightly catching up to Fernandez for P6. Kazimierski, you can see falling a little bit behind there on the timing and scoring on the left-hand side of your screen. About 2 seconds separate our drivers from P6 to P8. And that is what a 1 second gap looks like here at Fuji. Timothy Freeze Larson still with the advantage over Jansu Foster, snaking his way down the front stretch, trying to break that draft as much as possible. If you want that driver to try to make a move, you want them to utilize as much of that push to pass as possible. Down into turn one, Larson has made it look easy so far. Started on the pole, took the lead right away, blocking that inside line from Jansu Foster. And has set sail ever since, leading every single lap so far in the event. Again, Kevin Foster not far behind at all. You cannot count this driver out by any means. Can find that burst of speed at any given moment. So we are coming around. We are within 10 laps to go till we see that checkered flag. It has gone by in a flash. Our fastest lap time now does belong to Timothy Freeze Larson with a 1:16.788. Kevin Jansu Foster, 1:16.830. Actually, I take it back. Dan Yang has the fastest lap of the night of 1:16.680, surpassing our leaders by a tenth of a second. It's stuck back there in that fifth place spot, 2.3 seconds behind our P4 driver in that 14. So he's got the speed. It's just the timing of that fast lap not falling in the appropriate spot here. You'd like to see that right off the get-go within your first 5 laps or so and really keep yourself competitive. Clean air being a big factor for Timothy Freeze Larson, holding on to this lead. Battle forward position up here on the bottom right as we have near contact down into turn one. This is with Fernandez and Segerstrail. Kazimirski closes that gap up quite a bit as both our P6 and P7 drivers had to slow it up quite a bit as they were battling into turn one. They do immediately open up that gap, however, out of turn two, down into the middle course. Wide sweeping left-hander back to a long right-hand corner. Almost a horseshoe in shape. Short stretch between, I believe this is turn 10 and 12. Segerstrail within a half second of Fernandez. Kazimirski now back to just 7/10. Jansu Foster, however, is now catching up within a half second of Timothy Freeze Larson for the lead. This is the closest that Foster's been since the beginning of this race. He's been hovering around that 1 second area back behind Timothy Freeze Larson. Is this where Foster starts to put down those fast laps? We'll see here momentarily as Larson does find a way to get that extension out away from Foster, back up to 0.8 of a second. We'll take it back to that P6 battle now with Segerstrail and Fernandez within 0.2 of a second of each other. Kazimirski right hot on the trail as well. Keep an eye here on Foster, see how he can fare coming down the front stretch. Here we go with this P7 battle. Segerstrail holding on to that draft bubble. This will be important coming down the front stretch here. Turn 13 coming up, then turn 14 to the front stretch, on board with Kazimirski right behind here in P8. He's close enough to utilize this draft bubble as well. Turn 14 exit goes in favor of Javier Fernandez. Gets a much better run out of the corner, but Segerstrail will be able to keep it right there in the draft. We'll likely see another look to the inside here for turn one. Beautiful camera angles here provided by Dougie Beard. Defense playing on the inside. Fernandez holds that line down. Does not give Segerstrail an opportunity to work around the outside. Great move coming from that 6. Out into turn 3, back to the right-hand turn 4. A lot of speed to be had in this corner. But you have to be careful coming up right here. You have a little bit of a crest in the hill before a downhill braking zone into turn 5. Very easily unsettle these cars if you're pushing just slightly too hard. 0.2 of a second for Segerstrail, back to Fernandez. Kazimierski, Fachado now in the mix here with our battle for the 6th, 7th, 8th positions. Number 9 of Fachado back to P9 here. 0.3 of a second away from Kazimierski. Segerstrail starting to fall off just a touch from Fernandez. 45 seconds remain for Segerstrail. As you can see on the timing and scoring board, push to pass remaining for our top 10 at the moment. Larson and Foster nearly neck and neck here. It'll all come down to timing as we are 5 to go at Fuji Speedway. It's coming down to the wire for who could take home the win and this top 6 battle here with Fernandez, Segerstrail, Kazimierski, and Fachado all in the mix. Trying to gain as many points as possible here. It's a thing of beauty to watch these cars navigate these tight corners and be able to put on such a fantastic battle. Looking off of the back of Fernandez now. Segerstrail taking a slightly more shallow entry. Works out. It's keeping him very competitive here. He's not far off of the back wing. Into turn 14 we go, back to the front straight. Segerstrail using the push to pass. Fernandez, not Fachado with a move to the inside, looking to get around. Kazimierski gets wheel to wheel, has the advantage at the line. Kazimierski no way to defend here, but he can make a move back to the inside. Keeps it on the outside as it's wheel to wheel just ahead between Fernandez and Segerstrail. Fernandez still with the advantage. Segerstrail will have to hold on to P7 for now. Only 32 seconds remain for the number 12. 160 seconds remain for Fernandez. Another look side by side down into turn 4. Sorts itself out, but turn 4, turn 5. But it's not going away at all. Fachado has found speed as well. This is a 3-car battle for P6. Segerstrail goes wide. That'll hand it over to Fachado. He'll lose the position to Kazimierski as well. Apologize, that was Fernandez falling back to P9 after holding off that number 12 for so long. Segerstrail into P6, but Fachado hot on his trail. Will he be able to hold on to it? 3 to go at Fuji. Kazimierski right behind it here. Great view for this battle as we're likely going to see some heavy defense. No, he's still going to try to make a move to the inside. Fachado has the inside line down into turn 1. Segerstrail holding on, nearly contact, pushes Segerstrail wide on corner exit, but gets a better exit and a better setup for turn number 2. Inside line, can't cross him over, no contact made. Good, clean, hard racing here. What a battle back here for our top 6. Larson and Foster separated by nearly a second once more. Time is ticking for Jansu Foster to come away with another win on the season. This would be for the most wins between those two drivers. It's tied between JT Smeet and Jansu Foster. Timothy Cruz Larson, 1 win apiece on these broadcasted races. It looks like it's going to go in favor of Larson for now. But again, you cannot count out Kevin Foster. Always a top competitor here. Richard Kazimierski trying to gain some more ground. As Miguel Fachado will immediately go to defend the inside line, but loses that spot before turn 1, setting up to be behind Kazimierski for possibly our final lap next time by. Machado 83 seconds in the bank. Kazimierski still on the OTS, winding down from 135 seconds remaining. Larson and Foster still nearly dead even, both drivers on the OTS currently with 100 seconds left in the tank. Segerstrail with only 18 seconds remaining will have to be very cautious of when he will use that. Kazimierski, 135 remain. Fastest lap of the night. Oh, it's a close one. It actually falls in the hands of the 14, Corey Elaine. 116.554, 1/1000th of a second faster than Dan Yang. And immediately falls in favor of Timothy Fries-Larsen, a 116.383 last time by. White flag is in the air. Fachado to the outside of Kazimierski. P7 goes to the 9 for now. Kazimierski, 4 seconds until he can activate that push to pass with only 18 seconds remaining. Larson, Jansu Foster back at the front of the field, both under 30 seconds remaining now. 9/10 of a second separate our top two. Larson coming into turn 13. Up to turn 14. Don't spin the tires and the race win is yours. Timothy Fries-Larsen down the front stretch. Only seconds remaining on the push to pass as he crosses the line for yet another win in the Super Formula B Open Series to Timothy Fries-Larsen. All 27 laps in control of the number one Jansu Foster in P2. Dennis Branch holds on to P3. Not much competition, luckily, for Branch, but it's still a fantastic finish to come away with the top three here in this series. Man, oh man, how did this battle form back behind? They're just now coming across the line. Kazimierski, Fachado, side by side at the line. Fachado able to get around, holds on to P7 over the number 10 of Arthur Kazimierski, up 7 spots, our biggest mover of the race from the back of the field. Well, we saw it live, but let's go ahead and run through the rest of our field with our post-race results. Timothy Fries-Larsen with win number 2 on the broadcasted races here on Saturday. Jansu Foster with a second place finish, nothing to scoff at by any means. Dennis Branch in P3. The 14 of Corey Lane falls back just 1 spot, but holds on to a top 5 with 4th place on the afternoon. Dan Yang able to move up 4 positions into P5. Nicholas Segerstrail able to come home with a 6th place finish, down 1 position, but one of the lower ranked cars based off of the iRacing iRating. Miguel Fachado able to hold on to P7 with Arthur Kazimierski in P8. Javier Fernandez in the number 6 loses a couple spots with a late race mistake, but recovers well to hold on to a top 10. Simon Scholes rounding out our top 10. In 11th, it's Ludwig Ranson finishing out with the 5 machine. Dennis Cornu able to get back on track after an early race incident. 1 lap down for Ranson and Cornu, but finishing 11th and 12th. Our racers that did not get to finish today goes to Stefan Barr, Aaron Paul, and Benjamin David, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Take it to a quick commercial break here, then we'll get set up and talk to our podium finishers. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel.
We are back here at Fuji Speedway. We've caught up with our race winner, Timothy Freeze Larson, with race win number 2 on these Saturday broadcasted races. Larson, Timothy, whatever you want to be called, I think we could pretty well call you a GOAT at this point. You are one of the fastest drivers out here, had a fantastic battle to start the race with Jansu Foster, ended up able to get away by about a second for most of the race, and you kept that pace pretty well the entire time. What were the key points here for your race win tonight? It was certainly fantastic, starting on the pole, leading all 27 laps, and of course setting the fastest lap in the field. Actually, I apologize, I misspoke on that. You did not get the trifecta, but you were very, very close with that. Now, 27 laps led in one race is no feat to, undermine by any means. And we see that typically with our race winners in these Super Formula races. You mentioned the start being so important to get out ahead. Is that just the way these cars typically drive, or is it just a Fuji Speedway type of thing?
High speed and a good long straight, it kind of evens out, and so when both drivers have pretty much the same pace, the gap remains.
Well, yet another fantastic race for you here, Timothy. You know how it goes. You've been up here on the podium multiple times already this season. Of course, race win number 2. Who do you have to say thanks to for your success in the Super Formula V Open Series?
Well, I have to thank my family, of course, my friends, both here in Norway or in Germany, And yeah, just everyone cheering me and everyone else racing on in the chat and from all over the world. Thank you all so much.
Apologize, a little bit of an audio issue there, but Timothy Freeze-Larsen, we'll circle back to the first question we had for you, being what were your key points of success for tonight's race?
Well, the start, of course. Yeah, just barely getting a good enough start to cover inside, and from there, just not making any mistakes, staying consistent, not killing the rear tires, and yeah. Pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Timothy Freeze-Larsen, on yet another fantastic race. We will see you next Saturday when we get right back to it. Get to celebrating, buddy.
Thank you so much. See you then.
Trying to get set up here with an interview for our P3 finisher, Dennis Branch. Just bear with us momentarily. A little bit of audio issues. Trying to get that sorted out, but we will be right back with a word from Dennis in just a second. Alright, we may just have to forego this one. Yeah. Unfortunately, unable to get a word with Dennis Branch. The audio issues plaguing the booth up here today. However, did get to catch up and have a word. Dennis Branch mentioned being able to just keep the clean air and keeping the 14 of Corey Lane out of the draft were the key focal points of tonight's race to come away with a P3 finish. I'd like to give a shout out to Alan over at SimAbility, unable to race without that equipment. So big shout out to SimAbility from Dennis Branch. Fortunately, it does not look like we have Jansu Foster able to get up here to the booth today. Some hardware issues right after for Foster. Needing to step away and get that rectified, so that'll do it here for our coverage at Fuji Speedway. Had a great race nonetheless, a lot of battles through the middle of our field. Again, a great fight between Timothy Freeze, Larson, Yansu Foster up at the front, able to get away by 7.7 seconds away from our P3 finisher. A massive gap able to be put together here for our top two finishers. And what an exciting race it was. If you enjoy these races, don't forget to head down to the video description. You can find the PayPal link to donate for simracingnation.com to be able to get these up here on the VSPEED channel. We love doing it, love being a part of it. And a big shout out to Graham Crackers Racing, Race Ready 3D, and of course, Sim Racing Nation. This has been your coverage on this fine Saturday afternoon for the Super Formula B Open Series. It's been a pleasure for everybody behind the scenes at SRN and, of course, VSPEED, Bradley Cooper, Morgan Cook, Adam Baker, and, of course, Kyle Bassett stepping into the ring tonight, a.k.a. King Big Dip. And, of course, those cameras provided by Dougie Beer, making this look just, oh, so beautiful. I've been Logan Threlkeld, signing off. Good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.